Morning. It's Saturday, May 8th, and yesterday was a bad day in the USA. We had something that, to my memory, has not happened in a long, long time. The headline on Barron's magazine says, "Get ready for a blockbuster jobs report of 1 million or more." Well, the jobs report came in at about 8:30 yesterday morning, and we were nowhere near 1 million jobs. We announced the job increase of only 260,000. How could we be off by 750,000? It has not happened in my memory. Barron's claimed the job gains were going to be massive. And they said the reason was that because Americans are getting vaccinated, with almost 60% of the adults having at least one dose, that's powering an organic return to normalcy. And it's showing up because sports attendance and movie tickets and restaurant receipts are going up. Well, that all may be true, but that did not translate to people going back to work. And of course, the stock market futures started to dive because they depend on the job reports to some extent to get a reading on the economy. And between the hundreds of billions of dollars that were given out in the American Rescue Plan, much of that was spent, but a lot of it was saved. And that drove up the price of houses and stocks. And so Barron's, along with many other economists, was predicting that the combination of shots and checks should be potent. And that's why the economists were guessing gains of about 1 million jobs in April. But they screwed up. And maybe it's because of those checks that they screwed up. And maybe it's because of the non-vaxxers. You have many people that say we're giving out too much money and people won't want to go back to work. And maybe that's true now. Maybe that's what's turning out to be true. That as long as there's no real need to run back to work, because I socked away a lot of money during the pandemic because the money I was given by the government was more than I was making. And so I socked it away, and now I don't feel like going back to work until everything is 100% perfect. So Friday morning started out on a very bad note because we didn't have an increase of 1 million jobs. And it'll be all guesswork as to why we didn't have 1 million jobs in the morning. And Barron's ended their article, "Keep an eye on things, because this is an unusual recovery." Well, we will keep an eye on it because there was no recovery. This was a disaster. And I leave you with that, because we have to talk about another disaster that's overtaking this country. Several more states are tightening up their election laws. Arizona, Florida, Texas, and Michigan, and maybe more, tightening up the laws to suppress voting because they were unhappy with what happened within their states during the presidential election. Now, these states are controlled by governors who are Republicans and state legislatures that are Republican. And so instead of leaving the laws and making it easier for people to vote, they are making it harder because they want to control the results of the election. They don't want to give everybody a fair opportunity to vote. So Arizona has proposed multiple bills to tighten its laws, including one to shrink the pool of early voters. So I don't have a list of everything that Arizona was doing. I don't have a list of everything that all of these states are doing. But they are clearly making it more difficult for their constituency, their inhabitants, to vote. Major change in Arizona. Because our voters have been casting their ballots by mail for years. 30 years ago, the state started this policy. And now they have a bill that would eliminate permanent early voting. A bill that will not allow voters to automatically receive a mail ballot for every election. While that hasn't passed, but it's in the state legislature being considered. Why are they taking these drastic steps? Because they're unhappy with the results of the last election. And then there's Florida, whose legislature passed a sweeping elections bill last week. And the governor snuck off into hiding to sign the bill. Normally, when the bills are passed and they're for the good of the people, then they make a big public relations event out of it. But not in Florida. DeSantis snuck off to sign this bill. Now, Florida also had a record number of mail-in votes in the 2020 election, and they can't allow that to happen again. So now, if you want a mail-in ballot in Florida, you have to give them your driver's license or your state ID number or the last 4 digits of their social security number when asking for a mail-in ballot. And voters would also have to provide this information to register to vote or to update their registration. Now, I don't disagree with that. I think everybody should have some identification to vote. And once you registered, right? Once you have registered to vote, then you should be able to get anything you want by mail or otherwise. Not every time you ask for something, you got to produce the same thing. There should be a voter registration file. And every time I come to vote, I sign in. And if I request a mail-in ballot or something, I just send my social security number in or my tax ID or whatever number they want to see in my request, and I should get a mail-in ballot if they want to do that. Or I should be able to pick up a mail-in ballot by walking into some state office and showing my ID. Why are they making this thing so difficult to vote? Because they don't want these people voting. They don't want people who can't easily get to the ballot box to vote. This is a form of discrimination. And why aren't people fighting this? Because it's discriminatory. They've also put in rules about where the drop boxes can be placed and the hours of operation. Every night they're going to hide the drop boxes. And then they got rules about who can be online waiting to vote, and everybody has to stay 150 feet away. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And all of it is coming about because they believe that there was fraud in the election. According to all the reports I've heard, 70% of the Republicans in this country believe there was chicanery in the election. That is a sad commentary on the rest of this nation. And that brings me to the one other thing that's happening. The Republican Party is getting ready to vote Liz Cheney out of her leadership position. And why? Because she keeps telling the truth about the election. She keeps saying that Biden won the election fair and square and there was no fraud in the election. And that is contrary to what the former president, Donald J. Trump, is still screaming about. And many, many Republicans are listening to him. That is a sad commentary on the state of the Republican Party. So I'm exhausted this morning, so I will stop right here because too many bad things happened yesterday in this country. Bye.